Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is your boy Keith the Guy, and we got some fish to fry, and today I'm bringing you another color grading session using the iPad Pro. Now we're going to be using a program a little different from DaVinci Resolve, and that is Dehancer Pro. Now I already went ahead and created another video using my MacBook utilizing this particular application within DaVinci Resolve, but right now it's its own standalone program you can get on the Apple Store or the Google Play Store, and we're going to see if we can get a particular look, which today I'm going to be going for the Stranger Things look. We already have our footage in here, and I'm just going to forewarn you, this is Canon R5 footage, not Apple footage. Now, upon using this application, here's a couple things that I got to give you a heads up on. First and foremost, you got to understand we're not using a color calibrated monitor here. We're using our iPad. So be mindful on how you get your hues, saturations, and luminance going in this particular app, only because you're not using a color calibrated monitor. You're gonna have to kind of play these things by eye and hope it all kind of looks the same throughout all monitors. There's really no way where I can adjust my inputs and outputs, which, by the way, I'm gonna have to create my own color space transform here because there's no camera profiles in this application. We're gonna have to get our own Rec 709 look. So first things first, you're gonna go ahead and click on each of these so you can activate them all. That's how I like to start it off. And we're gonna stop at Vignette. So first we're gonna start with our source. Well, let me go ahead and bring the film grain all the way down. I usually like to start with no film grain. And let's go ahead and see if we can achieve our Stranger Things look using Dehancer for iPad. So first things first, I'm gonna bring the exposure down a little bit, not by too much, and adjust my temperature so I can get a more warm look by moving this to the right at about right there, which would be a sweet spot. I'm not gonna mess with the tint, but I am going to defringe it because I did use a telephoto lens for this particular shot. After we defringed it, the next thing I'm going to do is figure out which film profile I'm going to use. Now, I already went ahead and selected Kodak Vision 3 500T. That's going to get me closest to my Stranger Things look. We're going to go ahead and move over to developer and adjust our contrast and our saturation here because we got to create our own color space transform, mind you, because there's no camera profiles in this app. So let's go ahead and adjust the contrast first. Let's bring that to around, let's do 7.9, and let's really boost up the color so we don't get that washed out C-Log 3 footage look. And I want to say 44 is a sweet spot. I'm going to skip compression, move over to expand, and this is where we're really going to get that contrast look. So we're going to adjust our white points. Let's bring it down a little bit. Bring it down to like 93, and we're really going to adjust our black points. Now you can go too far here, so I want to say we're going to get a pretty good contrast at around 9. And as you can see, the footage is kind of a little distorted, and it's only because this is probably the preview look, but once you export it, you're going to get a more clean look. So I'm liking the contrast here, and let's go ahead and change the print. I don't want to use glossy paper. Let's go ahead and bring it to linear so I can get a little bit more breathe room with my contrast, and go back to expand and adjust my black point a little bit more, probably up to 12. Still get a little fades in the black, but not to the degree where it's looking too vintage. So let's go ahead and skip over to color head since we already did our print. And this is where we're going to get that orange teal look. So we're going to throw in a little bit more yellows. 2.2, and I'm gonna actually do 2.2 for my magenta green and my cyan red, except I'm gonna go negative 2.2 with my magenta, but not to the point where his skin is starting to look like he's a Teletubby. So we're gonna go to cyans and our reds, and we're gonna actually throw in some more reds to make up for that purple look that's happening in his skin. So boom. All right, I'm liking that so far. So let's go down to our tones, and let's go ahead and throw some blues into our shadow. It's getting a little too blue, so let's dial it back to 16, and let's throw in some orange into our midtones and our highlights. So in our midtones, we're going to be a little careful with that because that's where our skin lies, majority of our skin. And I think let's dial it back to 15.5. And our highlights, this is where we're going to see the highlights going on in the background of the trees and a little bit of his skin. And let's go ahead and adjust that. I really want some yellows up in there, so we're actually going to bring it up to, I think 17 is a sweet spot. And we're going to go ahead and go to film grain. As I mentioned before, I like to dial everything back and kind of slowly throw in some grain. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do here. So we're going to bring the amount all the way up, and let's dial it back to the point where it doesn't look too vintage. I'm liking it right here. I'm gonna leave the size at 1 and my resolution. Let's boost that up a little bit. And then let's see how much we're gonna want it in our tones. So, I never like grain in the shadows, but I do like it a little bit in the midtones and a little bit in the highlights. And we're gonna leave it at 50% for the color. And then we're gonna put in some nice halation so we can get a little bit of pop out of those highlights going on behind the tree. So let's amplify it a little bit. Let's leave the source limiter alone. The background gain is fine. Let's boost up the smoothness. And we're not gonna mess with anything else. I think I like the bloom just how it is, and I'm gonna leave that alone. And of course, you are always gonna need a little bit of vignette in your shots so we could put our focus on our subject, which is gonna be Virtue here. And let me see if I adjust the exposure. Bada bing, bada boom, whoop bam. And then, let's make the size a little bit bigger. Leave the aspect ratio alone, and let's leave the feathering alone. And boom, there you go. I think I kind of got that Stranger Things look, but let me see if I can adjust the contrast a little bit more by bringing up the black points. Like I said, we're not really using a color calibrated monitor here, so we're kind of eyeballing it. So I think I would only know the after effects after I export this, which is another thing that they can implement into this application, a before and after look, but I don't see where I can get a before and after look. But I will mention one thing: the convenience of this application alone is amazing. I kind of got a look by just using one application, and I can go ahead and export all of this and actually create an actual full-length video on my iPad. I'm not gonna lie to you, if I get bored on an airplane or something, or I'm somewhere in the beach in Cancun and I don't want to bring out my laptop, this is actually a pretty convenient way to color grade, because if y'all know me, I color grade everywhere, and that's why I went ahead and got the iPad. And I'm so happy Dehancer created an application that I can use to color grade on the go. And let's not forget, you can also use this app on your iPhone. phone. So if you got something like an iPhone Max where you got all that real estate going on, I suggest you get this application. So if you notice, the output kind of looks a little different from what we went ahead and did in Dehancer Pro, only because upon export I realized that the footage is a little too magenta, so I had to dial back the tint a little bit and readjusted the black point and brought the color boost way up. And that's kind of the issue you'll have when you're color grading on a monitor that isn't really color calibrated. And on top of that, the fact that Dehancer Pro only has waveforms and not necessarily vector scopes, we really had to eyeball it. But to me, that's a small sacrifice compared to so much that this app provides. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you guys did, go ahead, like, share, and subscribe. Well, this is it. We just fried some fish. My real name's Kit. Ippy, that's it. Deuces.